Hi, I'm Camille, and I'm going to be presenting my technical report for technology transitions. In today's society, technology is improving and developing at a pace that leaves last year's purchases in the dust. And when a company is not able to adapt at a pace that keeps them competitive, they collapse and a new company rises from their ashes. And in essence, this is technology transitions. And the story is the same from cell phones to televisions, airplanes to new energy sources, and in the scope of this report, automobiles. However, while sustainable and innovative may be buzzwords, when it comes to a more expensive purchase, even some of the most avid technology fans will be hesitant to invest in a product that's comparatively untested and not as trusted. This is especially the case with cars, as new makes and models are constantly being released, and each claims to be more fuel efficient and sustainable than the last. So, this usually leaves the consumers asking the question, is it worth it? Is investing in a more expensive, more sustainable, newer car worth it over the trusted, cheaper conventional car? People just want to know if the money they spend on an innovative vehicle will pay off and when it will pay off. Overall, people want to know what kind of car is the best option for them. So this leads to my problem statement, which is determining what car is the most economical for different types of drivers over a 5-year time span. Ideally, you want to keep the model and year constant to minimize variables. However, not all types were available in the same make and year. The cars under research were conventional, hybrid, natural gas, and electric, and the models were as follows. They were the Civic Sedan, Accord Sedan, Civic Hybrid, Civic Natural Gas, and Accord Plug-in. So for this study, it was kind of important just to have a basic understanding of how each car runs. A conventional car is fueled by gasoline, propelled forward by the internal combustion of the gas, and since it runs on gas, the refueling of the vehicle is dependent on gas prices. Also, conventional engines typically have a lot of components, so more maintenance is required. And although conventional engines have been around for a long time and they're very trusted, and they're the cheapest on the market, they're not the most environmentally friendly. So an electric car is propelled by electricity, and it's dependent on rechargeable batteries. Electric cars typically require less maintenance, but the batteries are expensive and they have to be replaced every 3 to 4 years. And they also have a large upfront cost, but they are better for the environment. A hybrid car is a combination of a conventional electric car. It has a more efficient combustion engine that reduces gasoline use and emissions and results in a higher MPG, and usually has a mid-range initial cost. A natural gas car engine has the closest system to a conventional car. It runs on the combustion of hydrocarbons, which minimize emission. And although natural gas prices are pretty constant and consistent, natural gas is still a limited resource, and it's not the most convenient in terms of refueling stations. So, in order to analyze which car is the best option for different people, the vehicles were analyzed in two different ways. First, each car was looked at as an investment, and the analysis was based on present values of the vehicles after 5 years. And the costs that were considered in these calculations were initial cost, insurance, maintenance, refuel costs, and resale value after 5 years. And the cars were then all analyzed in terms of the type of commuters that would be driving them, ranging from 50 to 500 miles per week driven in the city and in the highway. So, for the first analysis, it was important to take into account projected fuel costs. So, as you can see in this table, the only cost that decreases over 5 years is electricity. In order to help us examine each car as an investment, flowcharts were used. They helped us analyze and visualize the present value of each car. Values below the x-axis represented cost to the consumer, and values above the x-axis represented gains. Additionally, interest rate of 15.38% was used, and this is the average credit card interest rate in the country. So this first flow chart is for the Honda Civic Sedan. As you can see, it is the worst investment because it loses 46.7% of its initial value. The initial cost was $18,390. It had a sellback price of $7,283 and an overall present value of negative $26,979, meaning that 26,979 present day dollars will be lost on the car in 5 years. The next worst investment was the Honda Accord sedan, losing 40% of its initial value. And the next worst investment was the Honda Civic Natural Gas, losing 21% of its initial value, which is substantially less than the first two. So then the second best investment was the Honda Civic Hybrid, only losing 20.3% of its initial value. So now we come to our best investment option, which is the Honda Accord plug-in, and a consumer would actually end up gaining $1,309 after 5 years. If the vehicles were to be viewed as an investment, the best recommendation would be the Honda Accord plug-in, and the worst option would be the Honda Civic sedan. The cars were then analyzed based on the type of driving that the purchaser did. So, in this analysis, the initial cost of the car was included, and both the highway and city driving were analyzed. In the city, there are a lot of stops and starts, and this usually tends to deteriorate the fuel more quickly. The cars were also analyzed by how many miles per week that they were driven, ranging from 550 to 500 miles per week. So this first graph shows the city mileage costs for each vehicle driven at 4 different mileage values a week. Across the board, you can see the Civic sedan is the cheapest option, but it's also important to keep in mind that the initial values of each vehicle are included. In this highway mileage cost, the Civic sedan is again the cheapest option all across the board. So although the Civic sedan was the cheapest for both, it's important to look at both the city and highway mileage costs in order to determine the conservation of fuel for each vehicle. The closer the costs are for city and highway driving, the more fuel efficient a car is because the fuel is being conserved no matter how it's being driven. So when looking at the different costs, you can see that the hybrid and plug-in cars conserve the most fuel because the price difference is the least, while the Civic sedan and Accord sedan conserve the least amount of fuel. The recommendation based on type of driver is the following. So for a low frequency driver, the Civic sedan is recommended, and while the Civic sedan was the cheapest for high frequency drivers as well, it is believed that in the long run, that due to the Civic hybrid's fuel efficiency, it'll be the better option.